Hi, it's Janet and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be making 10 cards using the December Creative Escape paper crafting kit. So let's get started. Alright, so for card 1 I'm going to make an A2 size card base. It's in green cardstock here with a white panel on the top. And I've embossed that with an embossing folder that didn't come in the kit, but you could use any one that you may have on hand. This one happens to be from the Paper Studio and is some larger size snowflakes. Then I cut a few pieces with the tag die that comes in the set. Here I'll show you the solid red tag. This is cut with that die and makes one complete piece. Now this is the same tag cut in white, but I split it using the quote or the speech bubble die that comes in this little kit. And so that split it right in half, or wherever you want to put it. It's not really in half, I guess. In my case it's about 1/3 of it. And then that gives you kind of this speech bubble that you can attach to your solid tag like I'm doing here. So I'll attach this. I had previously stamped it with one of the sentiments that says, "You're such a dear," which is pretty cute. And I put it on right here. Now I'm going to tell you in advance, I stamped that a little bit too high. You can read the "your," as you'll see in the pictures, but it's a little bit cut off, just slightly. But I didn't think it was bad enough to redo it. Now I've added some of the Holly Jolly shaker bits, and now I'm going to put on the top die piece that has some foam tape in between, just enough room to give it some shaking capability there. And I also applied a little bit of white glitter stitched snowdrift there so that my cute little deer would have something to sit on. And I then also had made a bow out of the ribbon that came with the kit, and I'm going to put that at the top of this tag just to finish it off. Once that was done, I glued the tag to the front of my card and then added the sentiment "Sending a Little Christmas Cheer" out of matching green cardstock. And I trimmed the twine off just a little bit to make it fit the card a bit better. Then for finishing touches, I used some of the included Nouveau glitter drops, which came in the kit, and applied these to most of the centers of my snowflakes. And then in each of those areas I applied either a red, white, or green sequin from the Holly Jolly sequin mix. And I also put a few of the holographic stars on, as you'll see at the end here. Here's a close-up of the finished card, all ready to give to someone special. Alright, we're on to card 2, and this has again an A2 size card in blue, and then I've used a piece of the wood grain white cardstock that came in the kit, and this is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. I'll put that on in the center, and then I'm using a cut apart that came in that 12 by 12 cut apart sheet. To make this die cut pop a little more, I used some of the metallic paper that came in last month's kit and used the stitch wide rectangle set from Cottage Cuts and cut a frame to fit around this cut apart. And it worked quite well. You could make your own frame very easily. I just took mine out of my stash. And then I used some of that beautiful blue organza ribbon and made a double bow there to go at the bottom of the frame. I stamped "Merry Christmas" on some white cardstock and cut it out with a banner die that I had in my stash, and I'm putting that just at the bottom. And that finishes off this relatively simple but I think elegant looking card. Here's a close-up of this one. I just love the retro feel of it. Alright, let's get started with card 3. I used a panel of this knit style pattern in the gray, and I've applied a piece of fun foam underneath this. Now this is a 4 by 5 1/4 inch panel, and then I've applied ATG gun glue to this, and then used the blue ribbon, which is such a pretty color. I just love this ribbon. But anyway, applied that over the front of it and trimmed it off. And then I applied a little bit of more glue over the top of this just so that it sticks to my card base well. And then once that was in place, I could go ahead and put it on my base. And this just gives it a little lift with the foam underneath. Then I'm going to take some of the white and silver twine that came in the kit, and I'm just going to tie a simple knot a little bit off to the left of this ribbon to cinch it up. Then I'm going to use a larger glue dot. I think this is a 1/4 inch glue dot. Place on top of my knot. And then I'm going to just take the twine and loop it into 4 loops. 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top. And this is just a, to add a little bit of interest underneath my penguin that I'm going to apply on top of that. Now I wanted to show you what I did with the with my penguin before I did this. Is I used some Marvy Yoshida snow pen, and I just applied that. It's a liquid, it's pretty thin, and applied that to the areas of the hat where fur would be. And what this does is it puffs up when you apply heat, and you can see that here. See how that puffed up? It's kind of a neat look. You can see it's dimensional, and I liked the result of that. Now I used some Wink of Stella on top of it once it cooled, and that just added a little bit of shimmer to his hat, which was a nice little touch. The last thing I did here was I stamped a speech bubble from the included set, and stamped "Have a Cool Holiday" inside of it, and then I die cut it using the speech bubble die that's in the set for the tag. And then I applied that on a piece of foam tape, and that finishes off this very simple card number 3. And here's a close-up of this one. The little penguin's such a cutie, isn't he? Alright, so here's card 4, and I started by cutting 2 small panels, one using a nested stitch scalloped rectangle die from Cottage Cuts. That's the larger one in the craft. And then I cut a smaller one to fit inside it using the double stitch rectangle set. Now you can use any dies you have, or even just cut it straight into rectangles using your cutter. It really doesn't matter all that much. As you can see, I used some Distress Oxide ink and tea dye just to edge that larger rectangle. And then I stamped and cut out a speech bubble that says "Have a Magical Holiday." And I used this inexpensive Color Splurge ombre ink pad that I picked up from Amazon. And it came in a set with a whole bunch of other colors. I think a set of 6 or 8. It's been handy here and there. Once again, I'm using ATG glue on top of a piece of fun foam trimmed to fit underneath my designer paper. And I'm going to use that then to attach with some more glue right to my card base. And in this case, I'm using an A2 white card base. Alright, so I'm back to my little, my 2 small panels that I made earlier. I attached them with just plain wet glue. And then I started to apply a rainbow pattern in green, blue, yellow, orange, and now pink. Pink is my last color. And I always use my Spectrum Noir markers. I don't have any Copics, but I'm very happy for the most part with my Spectrum Noir. So I use that here. And now I'm going to apply a piece of white glitter paper to the bottom of this panel. I cut this using one of the hill dies from the Lawn Fawn Stitched Hill set, and just snipped a tiny piece of it to put at the bottom here. Apply it with wet glue, and this will give a little place for my unicorn to rest. Now I also decided that my rainbow needed a little bit of glitzing, so I applied some Wink of Stella on the top of that, because every rainbow should be pretty, don't you think? And so now it's time to put on the unicorn just with some wet glue, and with that, this is ready to go on my panel. So I applied that close to the center, but just a little bit toward the bottom. So just slightly off center, and I applied that using double-sided foam tape to again give it a bit more lift. And then I'm going to go ahead and apply my speech bubble, and that also has a little bit of double-sided foam tape on it. And for my final touches, I'm just going to apply some Nouveau glitter drops, which came in the kit at the center of each of these stars, and that finishes this card off nicely. Isn't this unicorn just the cutest little thing? He totally makes me happy. Card 5 is going to have a little bit of a split panel situation going on here. So I cut a piece of this paper from the 12 by 12 cut apart, and on the back side of that, or on the other side of the cut aparts rather, there's this pretty blue and white snowflake paper. So this is the strip I'm going to use, and I've just marked it on the back using the total width of that piece, and now I'm going back and I've put in another line that's a little closer together on each side so that I don't have to worry about any white showing. So you can see that here I've put it on my card base, and I'm going to put that top line and then go ahead and apply ATG glue to it and put it on, even though it's going to overhang at this point. But this is where I'm going to want it to go. And then I'll go ahead and trim it, as you see here. And I'm going to apply some Bo Bunny glimmer paste, or it's glitter paste actually. It's called Sugar, that's the color of it. It's basically just iridescent glitter in a clear paste. And I'm going to apply this to the top of this paper, and I just think that it is a pretty touch to this particular blue and white snowflake paper. It makes it seem even more like it's snowing, or like you're outside and you can see all the snow coming down really fine. At least that's how it is in my head. So here it is once it dried. It really turned out pretty. And now I've taken the two pieces that are left over after I cut out the center for my panel, applied double-sided foam tape to that, and it's going to go on either side of my snowflake panel, just like this. And so that means, of course, that that glitter paper is sitting up a bit from the panel in the center. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is the llama I'm going to use on this card. I colored it all in, but then I'm going to go ahead and do his scarf in a color that matches the card. I made a bunch of my critters ahead of time and left a few things undone, like the scarves or hats, so that I could kind of match it in with whatever I was doing. Now I'm shading this just with the same color of Spectrum marker, just applying another coat at the bottom. It's just enough to give it some shading. And then I'm going to go ahead on top of that and apply some Wink of Stella. It's in a fine line type marker, and I'm just going to apply some diagonals so that it has a little bit of a pattern. And that's adding just a tish of sparkle to blend in with the rest of the sparkliness of this card. I put some foam tape on the top part of him because he's going to rest partially on the glitter paper and then partially on the center panel where I applied that glitter paste. The penguin that I'm using here is just going to sit on top of that glitter paper, so it doesn't need to be on any foam tape. And then I stamped some sentiments here using the stamp set included, which says, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas." I'm just going to apply that with wet glue. And I do find that the wet glue is enough, especially in this glitter glue brand that I have here. It will stick well to that glitter paper. And the last thing is to put a few of these Holly Jolly sequins on with some glue, and there you have it. Here's a close-up of this finished card, and I think it's really fun. Card number 6 is a tag-shaped card, and I started with an A2 piece of paper, and then I marked 1 1/4 inch on each of the top corners, and then drew a line to connect the two, and then I put a little dot in the center. And once that was in place, then I could go ahead and trim these off, and you can obviously see that this is forming the shape of a tag. Then I took my Crop-A-Dile and chomped the corners off at the bottom here using the 1/4 inch measurement on my tool. And now I have a nice tag shape. All I need to do at this point is put in the hole punch right there, which I did. And now I have a piece that I can use to make the second piece with. And I'm going to attach these two together eventually, but right now I'm going to use the first piece as a template where I'll mark the corners and that center, and I'll go ahead and trim it and punch it and round the corners. Now I'm going to take one of the pieces, and at the 3/4 mark I'm going to score it, because this will be then folded, and this is the area 2 where I'm folding. Above the fold line there will be glue, and that will attach the front piece and will allow the shape card to stand. Now I put this on super high speed because all I'm doing here is using 2 colors of Distress Oxide inks to shade my tag front. And so I used Worn Lipstick and then also Candied Apple for the darker color. And I do want to say it looks pretty splotchy in this video, but one thing I've noticed about Distress Oxides is as they soak into the paper and dry, it finishes to a very smooth and blended coloration. So my finished card, as you'll see in my picture at the end, is really nice and even though it looks pretty splotchy right there. Now cut 2 tags using the included tag dies, just the simple full-size tag, and one in the green paper, one in the red paper. And I also attached twine to each one so that it had that finished tag look. So this card is a tag upon a tag card. And I'm going to use a couple of my critters. I've got a llama and my deer. And then I'm going to put 2 expressions on here. One says Happy Holidays with the llama and the other says Sending Love with the deer. And then finally I'm going to put a Merry Christmas sentiment at the top. I cut this rectangle out using one of the dies in my stash and just stamped it with the sentiment that was included with the stamp set in the kit from Lawn Fawn. Now it's time to attach the front to the back of my shape card. So this is the area above that score line that I put glue on. Then I'll place my other shape on top and press that down, and that will secure it and also allow it to bend right there so that you can stand it up like a normal card. Once that was in place, I put in 2 twines. Well, actually one is a twine, one is the ribbon, both included in the kit. And that gives that tag shaped card extra help to again resemble a tag. And then I thought I would add some white stitching using my white gel pen here just to give it a little more definition, and I think that finished it off pretty nicely. I really love the deep red and pink colors that came through on this card. I'm going to change it up a little bit with card number 7. It's going to be a square card, and I'm going to start by creating a snowy scene for the bottom of it. And I used the stitched hillside dies from Lawn Fawn, and I cut the top of the panel with one and then 2 other panels and trimmed those down so that I could stack them like you're seeing here. Once they were stacked on top, then I could trim that piece off, and now I've got my snowdrifts. So I'm going to place it at the bottom of my panel, and I just glued it on with wet glue, and once that's in place then I can trim the edges and I've got a nice square panel. This panel is actually 4.5 by 4.5 at this point. The next thing I'm going to do is cut the window for the sentiment that I'm going to use, and I'm using this heart stitched die from the set in the kit, and then I stamped Sending Love, which is also a sentiment in the stamp set, and I'm going to just attach that to the back so that the Sending Love is peeking through just perfectly, and I'll secure that with 2 pieces of Scotch tape. Now I can place my little critters. I've got the deer up here, and I also have the cute little penguin. This time I colored his hat in green to match the card better. And then I created a frame to go around this. This is just a 4.5 by 4.5 piece of cardstock with the center cut out using a scallop die. So I created then this cute little frame. Now this whole panel can go on my card base, which is 4 3/4 by 4 3/4 square, and it opens or folds at the top. I also created a bow using the white and silver twine, and that's going to go there. And then the final touch for this card is putting some of the Nouveau glitter drops just around that heart. And with that, we have card number 7 completed. These two look like they're having a great old time out in the snowbank, don't you think? All right, we're on to card 8. Now, instead of doing a Christmas card, I am doing a birthday card because there are many December birthdays, and I'm sure we need birthday cards this month as well. So I'm going to create a balloon using a piece of this green knitted look designer paper, and this is going to represent the bottom of the balloon on the card. This is an A2 size card, and once I've got that piece of green cardstock, I'm just going to draw by hand the edges of the balloon that are going to be showing in my card. And as I often do, I draw it one way and draw it again. And so then I end up finally with the lines I'm going to use for my trimming. And that's what I've done here. And the end result is the bottom of the balloon that's going to show on my card. Now I'm going to draw the knot part of the balloon, which is really just a pyramid with looped edges at the bottom. And then I'll cut that out, and it will go on the bottom of my balloon with a piece of foam tape just to give it a little bit more dimension. The bottom of the knot is just you know, rounded edges, and it kind of looks like a tulip if you would turn it right side up. Now I'm ready to attach this to my card and create the illusion that the balloon is being held by my little penguin. First though, I'm going to create a little space with my alcohol markers, and it's going to be where the penguin will stand. Now I have to admit, I wish I would have done this in gray or blue rather than brown, because I don't know, usually a penguin isn't sitting on brown dirt, it's sitting on a ice cube or snow or something, and that would have been cute too, to draw an ice cube, but I didn't think of that till it was too late, so I went ahead with my little brown spot for my penguin to sit on. It does look a little bit better in real life than it does in the picture right here, but yeah, it's all right. It would be better in blue though. Anyway, it's time to add my knot to the balloon, and then once that is done, I can add my twine, and I'm going to go ahead and tuck that underneath the little foam tape that I attached the knot piece to. And once that's in place, then I can extend the twine down to go right behind my penguin's arm. And I'll just use my art glitter glue in this case to attach the string right there. The art glitter glue dries clear, so it doesn't matter and won't show once it's dry. Now I needed also to create a little bow, and that's going to go right at the top of my knot. It kind of finishes that look and gives the illusion that it's tied off the balloon right there. And it makes it a little more festive with that bow too. Now it's time to stamp my sentiment. It's a simple birthday wishes, and I had this in my stash. Just stamp that in black. You could stamp it in any color. And then the final touch was to take the glitter drops from the kit and just apply dots all over to make it a happy balloon for a birthday. And that finishes card number 8. To start card 9, I took the A2 size glitter card front from the kit and cut it out using a die in my stash. And this is going to be used on the bottom with this scallop on the top. So the first step is to put down my glitter piece, and I cut out the center just to save that so I have it usable for some other card or something else. I'm not just covering it up with the scallop paper, which would be kind of a waste. This I cut out with something in my stash as well. You could use any shape that you want. This one I just thought would be fun, so I used it. I took one of the tags included in the kit that was white, colored it, and I'm going to emboss it. And then I also took one of the cut apart tags, and I'm going to cut that down with the tag die. To make this a little bit more interesting, I've just spraying some water down, and then I'll blot that water up and it will create some spotting. And then I'm using my silver glitter dust to spray generously on the top of this tag, and it really creates a pretty sparkle and shine on it. Alright, now I'm ready to put my 2 tags together, and I'll do that with the included twine in the kit. This is the tan and white twine. And I'll put that through both of the tag holes to hold them together. And then once that's done, I will go ahead and attach a matching bow that I made. And I just use a glue dot for that, put it at the top. And it is ready to place. But first I'm going to put my sentiment on, which is this Merry Christmas sentiment that actually was part of the tag cut aparts, and I just trimmed it down to fit my need here. And now I can put on my tags. Both of these things, the tags and the sentiment, are on foam tape. You'll see I secured the twine with a glue dot to hold it in place. And that completes my card. That little deer tag turned out awfully cute, don't you think? My last card here today is going to be a piecing type pattern, and I got this out of a template on the internet, and I'm going to have the link to this template in my video description, so go there to get it. What I did was I cut out the template, and then I went ahead and traced it on different pieces of leftover patterned paper from this kit. It was a great use of all the different pieces that I wanted to use. There's actually 5 different patterns, and then once they are ready to go, you can lay it out according to the template. And what I would recommend is go ahead and lay out your pieces before you start gluing them down, because it took me a couple times before I got it truly centered, and I would have hated to have glued it all down and then discovered at the end that I wasn't on center. So highly recommend you do that. Once it is laid out though, it's really easy and it's kind of relaxing just to glue the pieces in place, leaving a little bit of border of that that glitter background. And of course this is the glittered card front that came in the kit in gold. And once I had everything glued together, I just put it on my white card base, included also the star that came with the template, and also then cut the sentiment out of a rectangle and stamped it with Happy Holidays. And there you go. And this finishes card 10 and all the cards for this kit. Thanks for joining me today as I made 10 cards using the Creative Escape Papercrafting December card kit. I'll be back soon, but until then, keep crafting. Bye!